In the previous Popcorn News, discussion centered partly on the military officers appearing briefly in the background during Donald Trump's January 20th inauguration speech. What did it mean, if anything? There might be a simple explanation, but you tell me. Here's a short clip where the military officers are seen entering the background during Trump's inauguration speech.
Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. And we are grateful to President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama for their gracious aid throughout this transition. They have been magnificent. Thank you. Thank you. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another or from one party to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth.
Reportedly, billionaire George Soros financed or helped to finance the January 21st Women's March.
The mass anti-Trump protests apparently have a major sponsor, as revealed in an article by the New York Times. More than 50 partners of the Women's March against Trump have direct ties to billionaire George Soros. For example, a group called Gathering for Justice has been the direct recipient of numerous financial grants from the Soros Open Society. The WikiLeaks Podesta emails also revealed another organization, that of Move On. That's been sponsored also by the Soros business as well. Now, Move On supported anti-Trump campaigns during the election campaign. And more on this, RT's Murad Gazdiev.
The Women's March, it was, to me, it was the id on display. And that's a psychological theory where you have the id, the ego, and the superego. And I'm not going to go into an explanation. You can look up id, ego, superego in a search on the web, and you'll see what I'm talking about. The Women's March was the id run wild. And as far as Soros, is he liable? He partly financed this Women's March, and incidental to that, limousines were burned, or one limousine was burned, windows were smashed. So I'm not a lawyer, but that's the question: is Soros liable? I know that if somebody hires a hitman to go kill someone, and then the hitman regrettably murders somebody, there's the person that contracted for the hit is, in my understanding, guilty of I'm not sure of all the specifics, but somebody contracting for a hit, even though they don't actually kill anybody, they're also guilty. And I'm wondering if that applies in the case of George Soros funding the women's march, and incidental to that, a limousine is burned and store windows are smashed if George Soros is liable for the damages. A good Justice Department, which we may have, would be looking into that. There's no new tweets from Donald Trump this morning. I looked, and as of about 5:17 a.m. Central Standard Time, there had been no new tweets for the past 24 hours. I personally like the president's tweets, and I hope he continues them. In other news, Bernie Sanders has backed Donald Trump's economic nationalism, reports Jerry White of the World Socialist website, January 24th. On Monday morning, Trump signed an executive order withdrawing the U.S. from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. At the same time, Trump repeated his pledge to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA. Sanders was quick to congratulate Trump, stating, quote, "For the last 30 years, we have had a series of trade deals, including the North American Free Trade Agreement, permanent normal trade relations with China and others, which have cost us millions of decent paying jobs and caused a race to the bottom, which has lowered wages for American workers. If President Trump is serious," says Sanders, "about a new policy to help American workers, then I would be delighted to work with him." So you've got the Women's March, the id run wild, but you've also got some elements of the left which have not lost their minds. Donald Trump has upended the Progressive Coalition by convincing millions of Democrats to abandon their union leaders and the Democratic Party, reports Cliff Kincaid, Accuracy in Media, January 22nd. By way of background, remember that the workers used to be the cornerstone of the revolution. The phrase "workers of the world unite" is right from the Communist Manifesto. These workers are now behind Trump. They want jobs, not heroin. This, again, puzzles me, what is being called Trump derangement syndrome, where Women's March and others seem to have lost their minds. Trump is acting, it seems to me, to try and improve the situation for American workers. So why isn't the left happy? Why isn't the left happy that Trump has withdrawn from Trans-Pacific Partnership? Trump derangement syndrome. Has the left lost its mind? And finally, there's a story about the old Hollywood conspiracy theories, and I'll put a link to these various reports in my Heirs to Moose blog, which in the description portion of the video, I'll leave you a link to Heirs to Moose blog, and if you want to read the details on any of these stories, you can. And it usually it takes me within 24 hours. I'll have an accompanying report on my blog giving further background. But old Hollywood conspiracy theories, reports Ann Cohen, January 23rd. One of these is Marilyn Monroe was murdered. That's true as far as I'm concerned. She was murdered. See the book Double Cross, by Sam and Chuck Giancana. Another of these old Hollywood conspiracy theories, Nicolas Cage a vampire. Well, I don't know about that, but that's all for now. Thanks for watching.